What's up, everyone? I hope you're doing well today. This is Raphael Garcia here with MMA Ratings to put on episode 34 of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. Today is Friday, October 11th, and I'm coming to you after the second episode of the WWE SmackDown on Fox, and I wanted to talk to you about that show and also to some of the first round or the first night, I should say, of the WWE Draft. And we also were introduced today to the new side of Bayley. She's full heel now, no longer half heel, half all shucks guys, I'm still a role model. No, she's 110% heel, and we're going to get into talking about that after we talk about the show as well today too. And also talk about some changes to this show overall, because there's a lot of wrestling content that's coming out week to week now, as you guys know, with AEW on Wednesdays, NXT on Wednesdays, and just so much. I mean, NWA Power is out too. I gotta write that down. I actually need to watch that tonight as well. There's so much wrestling coming out that I really want to kind of reorganize how I'm doing the show. May actually start doing 2 shows a week, which has me a little bit scared, but that's neither here nor there. There's just so much to cover, and wrestling's always been exciting to me, but this is definitely an exciting time in the industry as well. But let's go ahead and let's talk about what happened tonight. So I want to dive into this show. First, I want to talk about the show overall, and then going to break down some of the draft picks that were picked up and how they went about doing the draft tonight. I think it was pretty interesting, a nice little shift to it, but they definitely made some mistakes, and we're going to go over that. So obviously, when SmackDown started tonight, it was interesting because there was a lot of commentary. Not a lot of commentary, but there were a bunch of people going back and forth about how the show already felt stale. 2 weeks into the new rebrand, the new platform, the new network, it already felt a little bit stale, and I kind of got that. I definitely didn't like the cut-ins to the various sports personalities talking about WWE. It just felt really disingenuous, and it just didn't get me excited in any way, shape, or form. I personally don't watch football anymore because of the Colin Kaepernick situation. I believe obviously he's being blackballed from the industry, and he still does not have a job, and I am just not a big fan of that sports league and the way that they handle the issues that are dealing with 56%, I think, of the NFL is African American. So the way they step on some of those social justice issues, I'm just not a fan of that product at all. So seeing them intertwined with the WWE SmackDown didn't really get me excited in any way, shape, or form. I'm happy that SmackDown and professional wrestling is getting that platform to be broadcast on, but I really don't care too much to see it within my wrestling. But there was a lot of talk about this show being stale, and I kind of got that feeling. This is one of those shows, though, where the ending made up for it. And Raj Giri over on Wrestling Inc. always talks about how the main event sets the tone for how the show is going to be remembered. And you see this a lot for big pay-per-views. If you think, like, for example, think back to Extreme Rules this year, where we had a great card up into that main event where we had Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch going up against Braun Strowman and Lacey Evans, where that shit show just blew the whole rest of the show up, no matter how good it was. So the same thing happened tonight with SmackDown, where we had what was a pretty mediocre show from start to finish, in my opinion, but the ending with Charlotte and Bayley was fantastic. We're going to get into that. But starting with the show, we had Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins for the number 1 draft pick. And they announced this match, I think, yesterday, and I retweeted it and talked about how this kind of got my attention. Some people had other negative things. And it's interesting watching wrestling Twitter, because it's getting more and more negative, and it's almost like foolish to watch how some people take every little thing and have something negative to say. It's pretty sad. But I definitely had some interest in this match, and these two guys delivered. There were Mattman podcasts sent out an Instagram post saying how when we look back at this generation, we're gonna forget how awesome these two guys are, and we're gonna kind of look back on them differently. and we're going to look back at them differently, kind of how we look back at other players who we thought were just kind of mediocre or not that great. But these two guys, I enjoy Seth and Roman. Well, I always said how I always thought, in my opinion, that Dean Ambrose was a weak link of the Shield. I'm not a fan of Jon Moxley either. His style just doesn't fit me. Roman and Seth were always the two that stood out to me as well. And yeah, like this match was good to me, and I enjoyed basically majority of it. The big spot that got me was the knee off the top rope that Seth hit Roman with. That whole transition, the knee off the top rope, roll through the bottom, hit him with the frog splash. I love that. I've always liked Seth's frog splash. I think he does it excellent. He looks good. He's like the perfect size guy to use that move as well too. He gets good height, gets good distance on that. They also did a callback to, I believe it was TLC or Extreme Rules maybe 2 years ago, or the one after Seth came back from his injury, where he countered the spear into the pedigree to get the win. I thought that's what they were going to do again tonight, but Roman kicked out. And once Roman kicked out, they were setting up for the curb stomp, and the Fiend appeared and pulled Seth under the. They pulled him under the. He pulled Seth under the ring. Seth got out, and then basically the lights went back down again, and Braun appeared back on the ramp. I wonder why they kept that going with the draft going on. We're going to talk about where Bray was drafted, where he was drafted tonight. But it was pretty interesting, and it set up a finish without there having to be a pin because it was ruled a DQ, and Roman got the win. So I think that gave Raw the first pick, right? Well, Raw got the first pick anyway, so whatever it was. But that was that. It was a good match, kind of blah finish, but they're kind of keeping some angles going on with that. So let's keep on moving for the rest of the show. I just want to kind of go quickly through this so I can get to Bayley and also get to the draft portion as well. So we got two recaps around the Tyson Fury, Braun Strowman angle and the Brock Lesnar, Cain Velasquez angle. Both of these matches are going down at Crown Jewel. I don't even know when Crown Jewel is. I don't care. I won't watch it. I'm not interested in seeing Cain coming into the WWE and jumping right into the main event. For those who are not MMA fans, he actually announced his MMA retirement from the UFC today. So the way it works there is if you retire, then your contract is basically frozen, and you can't take fights anywhere else. So he supposedly has done that and has joined the WWE full time, which I think is fantastic for him because it puts him in a position where he can continue making money. And he's claimed that he's fully committed to professional wrestling. So we'll see how that goes. But this is going down at Crown Jewel. Along with that, clearly they're not having him beat Brock for the WWE title. There's no way in hell. I'm just going to go ahead and draw a line there. Then you also have Tyson Fury versus Braun Strowman. We know Tyson Fury is going to go over this match. He's going to go over in this match, in my opinion. I just don't think that his promoters would have signed a deal for him to do action in a WWE ring and take a lot of damage or basically have a stock lowered. And not saying that him doing pro wrestling will lower his stock in air quotes, but it's still a moment that I don't think that they'll take from him. How often do you see special guests such as these come in and lose? I mean, hell, they had Floyd Mayweather beat the Big Show all those years ago, probably more than 15 years ago. Definitely more than a decade ago. So I think that was 2008 now I sit here and think about it, but that's another conversation for another day. So they gave us those recaps. The thing that was most interesting to me, let me get a drink of water. The thing that was most interesting to me was the fact that they showed stills of the footage of the fight, the 2010 fight between Kane and Brock. They obviously didn't show footage because they would have had to go to the UFC for that. But they showed stills, which I thought was pretty interesting because remember, they didn't show any stills of Ronda Rousey getting beat up in the octagon at all. And I think, a big piece of them doing that was probably more because of Rousey and her fragile psyche, for lack of a better term, when it comes to her losses. But seeing them show Brock's defeat and that scar that he still has on his face and the way he looked after that fight was pretty interesting to me. I mean, that was badass Brock back then too. That's when he had the full beard and he looked like a caveman ready to come and take your food. So I like that. That was a nice touch, but doesn't make me want to see this match anymore. So then they also gave us New Day versus the OC, and the thing that stood out to me the most about this was there was very little mention about Kofi Kingston being a title champion or being a title holder last week. He didn't make any mention of it. Corey Graves made a brief mention of it, and then the subject was quickly changed on commentary. He's thrusted right back into the New Day and into 6-man tags as if he just does, as if the whole 6-month reign that he had didn't exist. There wasn't, you know how the New Day do their WWE Tag Team Champions bit. There was no mention of him being a former champion. When Paul Heyman was talking about Brock Lesnar winning the title, he didn't even mention Kofi Kingston. There was no mention of that at all. And I think that they knew that because the fans were going to have a negative reaction to it. Because when Heyman mentioned that Brock won the title last week, the fans resound like loudly booing. So it kind of pains me to see that, he's just been shoved back into the 6-man title picture without any thoughts about his long-term viability. Like what's next for Kofi Kingston? What's next for the New Day? I think the way that they did him with Brock Lesnar hurt that whole group. But we'll see. I mean, maybe the draft will give them something fresh to start with. And Kofi also got the pin over AJ as well. Then that gave us the main event where we got Charlotte versus Bayley. Let me make sure there was nothing in between there. No. So that gave us Charlotte versus Bayley. And this was a good match. A lot of back and forth action. Bayley comes out. Well, Charlotte comes out first. And for those who don't remember, Charlotte just won the title at Hell in a Cell this past Sunday. And Charlotte comes out first. Bayley's music comes out. She's, doing her thing, but she just walks out with a hoodie on and pulls it down to show a haircut. She has shorter hair. She has black hair now. Obviously, she's already had black hair, but her hair is definitely shorter. It's like shoulder length, a little bit less than that, I believe. She pulls out what looked like to be an axe, and she starts chopping down the Bayley buddies, the inflatable, wacky, waving tube men, whatever the hell, however you say it from Family Guy. She cuts them all down, throws their posts off the stage, and walks down to the ring. The funny thing was the way Charlotte was looking at her like she's a petulant child the whole time. That stood out to me, and that was comical. I actually tweeted out the P. Diddy gif of where he's staring at the one guy from that show. And yeah, so there's that. But the match is great. These two women always deliver. Let me get a drink real quick. To be honest, I always forget how great Bayley is in the ring. In my opinion, the order of their abilities in the ring may just be Charlotte, Bayley, Sasha, and then Becky. You could probably switch Sasha and Bayley on any given day, but Charlotte's definitely the top. In my opinion, Becky's at the bottom, but she has a big character that kind of equates. But either way, they continue to do their thing. They go back and forth. Bayley hits a surprise. Bayley to Bayley, and I hope they give her a new fucking finisher, but she hits that, and she gets a close 2 count. She sits up and she's arguing with the ref. And while she's arguing with the ref, she eats a natural selection. So she's face down, not moving. Charlotte picks up legs, starts going for the figure 4 to the figure 8. But Bayley grabs handfuls of hair, pulls her down, and gets the pin 1, 2, 3. And the way Charlotte pops up, I love how she sells. Like, she isn't hurt, but she's like, oh shit, like she sells it like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. And before we talk about Bayley more, Charlotte is awesome. So she gets up, walks to the ropes, points at the ref, and tell him to come open or hold the ropes for her so she can exit the ring. And she always does that. It's like fantastic. She tells whoever the ref is to stop what you're doing, come hold the ropes for me so I can get through and walk down the steps and walk back up the aisle. That's a touch to her character that you don't get to see on camera sometimes, all the times, but it's awesome. But back to Bayley, she takes the title, celebrates standing on the commentator table, and I noticed that she has new music. Fantastic. I'm a big fan of that. I'm here for that new heelish type music, and I'm looking forward to seeing when that drops on Spotify or WWE Music. I'm probably going to add that to my WWE Gym playlist as well. But she picks up the mic and she just says one line: "Hey bitches, screw all of you." Throws the mic down and her music turns back on. The crowd's going stupid, and they're not going quite as wild as when Becky snuffed Charlotte back at TLC last year, was it? Maybe a couple months before that. They're not going that wild for that, but this is a full heel turn for Bayley that I think a lot of people have been waiting for a very long time. Her music sounds good. She was wearing black and yellow, she wasn't wearing the bright blues or the reds or anything like that anymore, so you can see her costume changed. The hair change was big though. So this is good. This gets me excited to see Bayley because her character had gotten very stale, and WWE has shown a reluctance to do a lot of things with stale baby faces. So this right here was a huge moment, and I'm hoping that it leads to some excitement around her because she and Charlotte have not been drafted yet. So there's no telling where they will head up next. But this is a big change. It was a good change. It was something that got a lot of people excited. So I want to talk about the draft and how they set that up for today. So, So what they did was they announced that 70 wrestlers in total that are eligible to be drafted. I'm looking at my notes here. And that's going to be between the 2 days, today and Monday. 30 were eligible tonight. 40 are going to be selected on Monday, obviously, because it's a 3-hour show. So SmackDown being a 2-hour show gets 2 picks. Raw being a 3-hour show gets 3 picks. Tag teams are considered 1 pick unless picked separately. Anyone who's left over for free agency is anyone who's left over at the end of the night is eligible to join whatever show that they want. So today, the list of wrestlers that were eligible for tonight was revealed by WWE.com. Now, what that meant was, let's see if I can find it real quick. Because that meant that they brought out the draft pool for tonight. And what people noticed, they switched it. So originally on the website, it was listed by, the draft pool was listed and it matched the exact draft order that they were going down on the show. And people on Twitter started noticing it. Now, if you go to WWE.com, you see that it's listed by alphabetical order. The same thing for Raw. But yeah, people were losing their shit. Like, are you serious? Did someone seriously put this out here and not realize that it's in the same order? So the people that were eligible tonight for SmackDown were Akira Tozawa, Alexa Bliss, and Nikki Cross, Becky Lynch, Bobby Lashley, Braun Strowman, Bray Wyatt, Cesaro, Chad Gable, Drew McIntyre, Drew Gulak, EC3, Eric Young, Heath Slater, Heavy Machinery, Humberto Carrillo, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, Kevin Owens, Lacey Evans, Lucha House Party, Natalya, Randy Orton, Ricochet, Roman Reigns, Sin Cara, Tamina, the B Team, Bo Dallas, and Curtis Axel, the OC, SmackDown, the Revival, Street Profits, and the Viking Raiders. So that is the group of people that were eligible today. And let's see. So what they ended up doing, the draft for today, went in the following order. So let's talk about this. The number one pick was Becky Lynch. 110% behind that. They were correct. I saw one person try to push back on Twitter about that, and it was absolute. He got shut down immediately. So Becky Lynch went 1 to Raw. Roman Reigns with 2 to SmackDown. Then the OC, Styles, Gallows, and Anderson with the Raw. Bray Wyatt is on SmackDown. Drew, which I think is important there because I doubt so. Seth is going to SmackDown as well too. Champions can move around. Drew McIntyre with the Raw. Randy Orton went to Raw. Sasha Banks went to SmackDown. Ricochet went to Raw. Braun Strowman's on SmackDown now. Bobby Lashley is on Raw. Alexa Bliss is on Raw by herself. There's no Nikki Cross. We're going to touch on her in a second. Lacey Evans went to SmackDown. Kevin Owens with the Raw. The Revival, they're over on SmackDown. Natty Neidhart, she's over on Raw. Viking Raiders on Raw as well. Lucha House Party, all 3 of the guys. Grand Metalik, Lindsay Dorado, and who's the 4th? Kalisto. I want to see more of Lindsay, but that's another day, another conversation. They went to SmackDown. Nikki Cross, she's on Raw. Heavy Machinery is on SmackDown. And the Street Profits, the only NXT duo or star mentioned, they're up on Raw. So that was the draw there, the draft there. Everyone else who was not mentioned is now a free agent, and they will probably be placed on a show tonight or whatever if they already haven't been done, and we'll see what that looks like in the future. So, I mean, these draft shows don't really stand out to me and get me really excited too much, but let's see what happens. And then Monday, the pool for Monday, let's see who this pool is. So the pool for Sunday is as follows. Let's see. Give me 1 second, because the pool for Sunday is as follows. We have Aleister Black, Ali, Mustafa Ali, in how I like to pronounce him, Andrade, AOP, Apollo Crews, Bayley, Brock Lesnar, which I think is interesting because, I mean, we're going to see what happens with Brock Lesnar and where he goes. I find it hard that they would switch Seth and Brock and put Seth on SmackDown. SmackDown's really being treated like the A show right now, but we'll see what happens. Let me see something. So Brock Lesnar, Buddy Murphy, Carmella, Charlotte Flair, Cedric Alexander, Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder, Dana Brooke, Daniel Murphy, Drake Maverick, which I find odd that Drake Maverick is listed in such a way, but we'll see what's up with him. Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode, Elias, Eric Rowan, Fire and Desires, Mandy Rose, and Sonya Deville. I hope they break them up. King Corbin, Jinder Mahal, Liv Morgan, Luke Harper, Mojo Rawley, The Miz, No Way Jose, Rey Mysterio, R-Truth, Rusev, Samoa Joe, Seth Rollins, Sarah Logan, Shelton Benjamin, Shinsuke Nakamura with Sami Zayn, the Iconics. They got to keep them together. The Kabuki Warriors, they got to keep them together as well too. The New Day and Titus O'Neil. Now, like I said, they switched the order of this as well. They even put it in alphabetical order too. I'm looking at this list. I hope that they keep the New Day together because I don't want them to hurt that group. Like as I said today, they've already been shoved back in to like the mediocre level that no one wants to see them at. So we'll kind of see what happens there. But I mean, it's just so painful that they were done this way. So yeah, I don't right now I'm not too excited about this. So as I was saying, it's interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see what this draft does. I'm not the biggest fan of these WWE drafts because it seems like they don't stick. But let's see what happens. I have a good feeling that they're going to be pretty hardline and do what they need to do and make these actually meaningful. They even took the time to do like makeshift war rooms with executives in air quotes from both SmackDown and Raw making the actual selections. So that was pretty, it was a nice little wrinkle. But we'll see if this really kind of matters for the long term. All in all, this wasn't the greatest show, but that ending with Bayley really got me hyped and really got me excited to see what they do what's next with her. So before we close out today, I wanted to talk about what we're doing with this show. As I mentioned, there's a lot of content that is going on within the world of professional wrestling. I'm looking to do more myself as well to kind of continue building my own brand as a media personality in this industry, in this space. I plan on doing more interviews, maybe like monthly audio interviews and probably some written ones, maybe. As always, you can always catch my written content over at Daily DDT and my podcast content over here at MMA Ratings. But I am going to continue doing that as well, along with the Thursday MMA Ratings podcast that I do with my partner Schwan Humes. Every Thursday, you can catch our show from yesterday on MMA Ratings Net. But yeah, there's going to be some changes to this show. Going to be some content that I hope everyone takes the time to listen to and check out. I am probably going to start doing shows. I just need to kind of flesh it out because there's so much stuff out there, and I want to kind of maybe dedicate a show to Monday or to the Wednesday Night Wars as well too. So I got to kind of flesh it out, but I do plan on doing a second show, maybe figuring out a way I can talk about the Wednesday Night Wars and SmackDown and Raw. Maybe do that on Mondays or something like that. But there's just so much going on, and then I want to get into NWA Power. I want to get into other avenues of wrestling. I have my New Japan account that I rarely use. There's just so much. So, as always, again, if you want to follow my content, you can catch me at rgarcia_sports. You can always check us out as a group at MMA Ratings Net on Instagram and Twitter. Check us out at MMA Ratings on YouTube, where you can subscribe and listen to this show and others. You can catch us on Spotify, Anchor, SoundCloud, and iTunes as well. Please be sure to like and subscribe to all of our content. Share it across all of your channels so we can get continued viewers and subscriptions in. Our numbers are slowly going up, but the whole positive point is that they're continuing to rise. I thank you all for taking the time to listen to this show, whether tonight, tomorrow, whenever you do so. Please be sure to tune in next week for more content. And again, this is Raphael Garcia here with MMA Ratings for Let's Talk Wrestling episode 34. Thank you and have a great night.